My Miss Perfect neighbor reported me to CPS to get revenge over petty disputes. I'm a 40-year-old single mom raising Emma, 12, and Lucas, 8, in a small town where reputations are currency and gossip spreads like wildfire. Our modest two-bedroom house with its patchy lawn and stubborn tomato garden is our sanctuary, pieced together after my divorce 5 years ago. For 3 years, my neighbor Karen has waged a relentless campaign against us, her grudges escalating from petty spats to a devastating CPS report that nearly broke us. She cloaks her malice in a saintly facade, charming the town while tormenting us in shadows. Despite everything, she's kept her pristine public image, leaving me wrestling with a moral dilemma. Exposing her could destroy her daughter Sophie's future, a girl I've grown to love like my own. Karen, late 50s, lives next door in a house that could star in a home magazine. Her lawn is a green mirror, her mailbox matches her shutters, her roses pruned to perfection. As the deacon's wife, PTA treasurer, and historical society chair, she's Saint Karen. Organising food drives and baking for church bazaars, her smile dazzling at every town picnic. But her welcome when I moved in was a syrupy jab. "It's got character," she said, smirking at my chipped porch paint, her tone dripping with disdain. Our first dispute came a year later, over my oak tree's leaves drifting into her yard. She knocked, smile tight. "I'm sure you didn't mean to let your tree ruin my prize roses. Can you trim it?" I spent $300, 0 cents, on a landscaper dipping into my grocery budget, only to overhear her at a block party telling Mrs. Henderson, "That tree's an eyesore. She doesn't care about our neighborhood." I bit my tongue, wary of trouble as a newcomer in a town that judges outsiders. At the annual fair, she handed me a pie, beaming for the crowd, then leaned in. "Your lawn could use a trim," she whispered, smile never fading. 6 months later, parking became her obsession. She declared no one could park in front of her house, claiming it blocked her view. When my friend Maria parked there, Karen left a note. "Respect your neighbors." I knocked to apologize. "Oh, it's no trouble," she said, smiling, "but let's keep the street tidy." Days later, her husband blocked my driveway for a week, forcing me to park a block away and rush the kids to school. I confronted her. "Is something wrong with your parking?" she asked, eyes wide. "We'd never do that intentionally." Her feigned innocence made my fists clench, but pushing back risked her painting me as the aggressor. Karen's complaints piled up. She reported my mailbox as faded, sending a certified letter that cost me hours at City Hall. She called animal control when my cat wandered into her yard, claiming it terrorized her garden. "I just want our street to shine," she'd say, hands clasped whenever I questioned her. I'd explain to Emma and Lucas why the mean lady was upset, their confusion tugging at my heart. "Why is she so mad?" Lucas asked once, clutching his dinosaur toy. I forced a smile. "Some people just like to fuss, buddy. The big fight began 2 years ago over a fence. The old wooden one between our yards was crumbling, so I planned a chain link replacement, affordable on my nurse's salary. I verified the property line and knocked on Karen's door. "Chain link? That's tacky," she said, smile icy. "You need a wooden privacy fence." I explained my budget. "You'll regret this," she hissed. That night, I sat with Maria at my kitchen table, weighing options. "She's bluffing," Maria said, sipping tea. "Stick to your plan," my stomach knotted. "What if she escalates?" Maria shrugged. "Then you fight." I nodded, hoping for peace, but dread gnawed at me. The fence went up in June and Karen acted like I'd built a landfill. She filed a city complaint, citing an aesthetic ordinance. I spent weeks proving compliance, poring over regulations after work, my eyes burning from screen time. The city dismissed her claim, but she rallied neighbors with a petition about property value threats. At a town hall she stood, voice quivering. "We must preserve our community's charm," neighbors nodded, swayed by her tears. I noticed her unpermitted backyard shed, but stayed silent, knowing I'd look petty. After the meeting, she caught me at the coffee stand. "Your fence is a disgrace," she said, smiling for passers-by. "Fix it, or things will get harder." Her attacks turned vicious last summer. I came home from a 12-hour shift to a CPS notice. 2 caseworkers stood on my porch, citing neglect and unsafe conditions. My heart sank as they inspected my home, noting the cluttered counter and toys. They asked Emma if she felt safe. Lucas, if he ate enough, he mumbled he wanted cookies. They left, saying the investigation would continue. I collapsed, sobbing, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Losing my kids, my home, everything. I called Maria, voice shaking. "Who would do this?" I choked out. "Karen," she said firmly. "It's her style." Tears fell. "I'm scared, Maria." "You're strong," she said. "Start documenting." The stress was crushing. Emma woke crying from nightmares about strangers taking us. I held her, whispering, "You're safe, baby," though my own fear kept me awake. Lucas clung to me, asking, "Am I bad?" I kissed his forehead. "You're perfect." I cleaned obsessively, scrubbing floors at midnight, and stretched my budget to keep the fridge stocked, skipping my own meals to afford it. At work, I faltered, dropping a tray of supplies, my hands trembling from exhaustion. My supervisor pulled me aside. "Find who did this," she urged, her voice kind but firm. I nodded, but self-doubt crept in. Maybe I wasn't a good enough mum. I pushed the thought away, focusing on Emma's smile, Lucas's laugh. Proof came while watering my tomatoes. I overheard Karen on her porch with her book club. That fence was her last mistake, she gloated. One CPS call and she's scrambling. Her friends laughed, one saying, "You're ruthless, Karen." I recorded it, the audio faint but damning. I played it for Maria, her face darkening. "She's careful. You need more." I nodded, resolve hardening. "I'll get it," I said, my voice steady despite the fear. Karen posted on the community Facebook page about protecting children, while her report traumatized mine. She hosted fundraisers, handing out flyers at church, then whispered I was unfit to Mrs. Henderson in the post office line. At the store, Henderson muttered, "Neglectful," as I passed, her eyes cutting. I gripped my cart, fighting tears, feeling the town's gaze. Neighbors who once waved now avoided me, their silence louder than words. I felt like an outcast in my own home, but I refused to let Karen win. I researched false CPS reports, a misdemeanor with fines or jail. Suing for defamation was an option, but legal fees would drain my savings, already strained by hospital copays and the kids' school supplies. Maria advised evidence gathering. She's arrogant, she'll slip. I logged her glares, her jabs, the audio, and her Facebook rants about hazardous homes, with comments targeting me. Each entry felt like armor, but the weight of it exhausted me. The CPS investigation dragged on. Caseworkers returned thrice, checking my stocked fridge, interviewing teachers. Emma's teacher called, furious. They asked if she's unkempt, she's a star. I sat Emma down. "Someone lied, but we're okay," I said. "Why do they hate us?" she asked, eyes wet. I hugged her, throat tight, wishing I could shield her from this pain. The strain frayed me, but I stayed strong, pasting on a smile for Lucas's bedtime stories. My connection to Sophie, Karen's 16-year-old daughter, began 2 years ago. Sophie was quiet, sketching alone at school events while Karen schmoozed. Emma befriended her at a PTA picnic, dragging her to play tag with Lucas. I saw myself in Sophie's shyness, recalling my own controlling parent. I invited her to bake cookies, hoping to draw her out. "Your house feels warm," she said, kneading dough, her guard lowering. Over months, she became a fixture, helping Lucas with puzzles, braiding Emma's hair, laughing at my puns. I learned her dad was distant, her mum suffocating. "Mum wants me to be perfect," she confided, eyes on her sketchpad. "I just want to draw." I bought her charcoals, her face lighting up. "No one's ever..." "Thanks," she stammered, hugging me. Sophie started babysitting last year, becoming a big sister to Emma and Lucas. She read them stories, helped with homework, patiently explaining fractions to Emma. One night, after the kids slept, she showed me her portfolio, sketches of forests and faces, raw and vivid. "You're talented," I said. She blushed. "Mum says art's a waste. She's pushing pageants, clubs, for college apps." I saw her strain, like my own past. "Follow your heart," I said, squeezing her hand. "You're enough." She teared up, and I felt a maternal pull. When Emma had a fever, Sophie stayed late, bringing soup, reading until she slept. "You're like my mum, but softer," she whispered, and my heart swelled. Last fall, we spent an afternoon painting the kids' treehouse, Sophie teaching Emma brush strokes, their laughter filling the yard. "Your family," I told her, and she smiled. eyes shining, cementing her place in our lives. The moral dilemma hit when I realized exposing Karen could ruin Sophie. Sophie's applying to art schools, banking on scholarships, relying on Karen's clout for recommendations. A scandal would crush her, a girl I love like family. I lay awake, torn. My kids deserve justice, but Sophie's sketches are her soul, her escape from Karen's control. Maria tipped me off to a Facebook post where Karen railed about irresponsible parents. Comments confirmed I was the target. The fence lady? CPS is always there. I screenshotted it. I met my lawyer at a diner. "You've got a defamation case," she said, sipping coffee. Audio and screenshots help, but CPS won't name the reporter without a court order. She suggested a $200 0-cent cease and desist letter. "Will it hurt her family?" I asked, picturing Sophie's portfolio. "Maybe," she said. "Small towns talk." I paced my living room, heart heavy. "Send it," I said, hoping to scare Karen without ruining Sophie. Karen went quiet, deleting her post, avoiding me. But at a school fundraiser, she cornered me by the bake sale. "A lawyer," she sneered. "I've run this town for 20 years. You're nothing." My heart pounded. "Leave my kids alone," I said, voice steady. She smirked and walked off. I told Maria later, sitting on her porch. "Go public," she said, eyes fierce. "But Sophie..." I trailed off, picturing her painting with Emma. "That's the trap," Maria sighed. "You can't save everyone." Last month, I sat with Maria in her living room, papers spread across her coffee table. My log, screenshots, the audio file. "What's your move?" she asked, pouring wine. I sighed, rubbing my temples. A lawsuit could stop her, but it's thousands I don't have. And Sophie, her scholarships depend on Karen's name. Maria leaned forward. "You could leak the audio anonymously. Let the town tear her apart." I froze, imagining Sophie's face, her dreams crumbling. "I'd be no better than Karen," I said. Maria softened. "Then what? You let her keep hurting you?" I stared at the papers, my kids' faces in my mind, Sophie's drawing on my fridge. "I don't know," I whispered. "I need time." I posted in the community group. "False rumors have hurt my family. CPS found no issues. My kids are safe. Please support us." I included a photo of Emma and Lucas at the park. Some neighbors rallied, messaging about Karen's vendettas, but others stayed loyal, dazzled by her charity act. At the market, Mrs. Larson, a longtime resident, squeezed my arm. "I believe you," she said softly, but others turned away. Karen's influence like a fog over the town. CPS closed the case in November, no neglect found. A new report landed the next day, flagged as redundant. It was Karen. I filed a police report presenting my logs, screenshots, and audio. The officer sighed. "She's a piece of work, but proof's thin." They visited her and she played the martyr. "I was just concerned for those poor kids," she said, eyes misty. No charges stuck. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel. "What about Sophie?" I whispered, picturing her sketch of Emma and Lucas. Karen's image thrived. She hosted a Christmas toy drive, thanking the town for uplifting our values. Neighbors fawned, donating in her name. She charmed the police with cookies, softening their view. Her book club resumed, her posts returned, vague but cutting. Rumors linger. Mrs. Henderson whispered, "Troubled home at the store yesterday." Sophie, unaware, still babysits, sketching with Emma, her college dreams at stake. She showed me her portfolio, eyes bright. "You think I can get in?" she asked, handing me a drawing of our tomato garden. "You're incredible," I said, voice catching. She hugged me, her trust a knife in my chest, and trapped. Emma's nightmares are fading, Lucas is himself, but I'm on edge, my nights sleepless, my savings dwindling. I met Maria at her kitchen table last week. "Sue her," she urged, slamming her mug. "She's poison." I thought of Sophie's portfolio, her smile, her auntie nickname. A lawsuit could win, but the cost and town's loyalty to Karen are daunting. Exposing her might crack her facade, but it would crush Sophie, her future tied to Karen's reputation. Confronting Karen is futile, her tears would vilify me. I considered telling Sophie, but she's a kid, caught in her mum's web. I thought of moving, but this is our home. Karen's next door, her lawn impeccable, her smile smug. I clutch my evidence, torn between my family and Sophie, wondering if justice and mercy can coexist in a town that worships Karen's halo. Sophie's drawing on my fridge haunts me, a vibrant reminder of the girl I can't betray, and my heart aches for a way out that doesn't exist.
Karen is a monster, period. What she did with those CPS reports is unforgivable and pure evil.
Honestly, I read this whole thing, and while the CPS call is out of line, you have to admit the narrator sounds like she's not exactly the best neighbor either. Patchy lawn, chipped porch paint, that chain link fence. In a town that values appearances, maybe she wasn't exactly putting in the effort, and sometimes you have to compromise to get along.
Saint Karen is a total fake, using her church connections and community roles to torment her neighbor, and then hiding behind her daughter? That's some next-level hypocrisy. The truth needs to come out.
This is a classic case of she said in a small town. We're hearing the narrator's side painting Karen as the villain, but what about Karen's perspective? Maybe she genuinely was concerned about the property or felt the narrator was being unreasonable with the fence or parking. Not saying the CPS thing was okay, that was clearly too far, but let's not pretend one person is a saint without hearing all sides. Gossip is powerful and reputations can be easily ruined.
Forget the fence and the leaves. The CPS reports are the unforgivable part here. Who makes false allegations that could rip a family apart, not once, but twice? That shows a level of cruelty beyond petty neighbor disputes. The narrator needs to go scorched earth. Lawsuit, police reports, blasted all over social media. Protect her kids.
Poor Sophie, caught in the middle of her mum's toxic drama. Seems like a sweet kid.
I feel like the narrator is being naive about Sophie. She's painting this picture of a sweet, innocent girl who will be destroyed by her mother's scandal. While that might be partly true, Sophie is 16 and lives with her mother. Is it possible she's not entirely unaware of Karen's manipulative tactics? Protecting Sophie is admirable, but the narrator needs to prioritize her own children's safety and well-being above the feelings of a teenager who is part of the aggressor's household. It's a harsh reality, but her own kids come first.
This is heartbreaking. Innocent children caught in an adult feud. The nightmares. That's the real tragedy. Karen's actions are despicable.
Honestly, I'm on Karen's side on some of the smaller stuff. If you live in a neighborhood with certain standards, it's not unreasonable to expect your neighbors to maintain their property. A patchy lawn and chipped porch paint do affect curb appeal and property values. The CPS thing escalated way too far, but maybe the initial conflicts could have been avoided with a little more effort from the narrator.
The moral dilemma about Sophie is the core of this. Can the narrator get justice for her family without destroying the future of a girl she cares about? It's an impossible situation, and there's no easy answer. Leaking the audio anonymously seems like a tempting option, but it also feels like sinking to Karen's level. The narrator needs legal protection, but the cost and the potential fallout are immense. She's truly trapped?
Karen is clearly a narcissist who thrives on control and appearances. The way she uses her community roles and charity to mask her cruelty is textbook. The townspeople who fall for her acts are either gullible or choose to ignore the truth. This isn't just about a neighbor dispute. It's about a toxic individual manipulating an entire community.
Sue her, period. The evidence is mounting, the audio, the screenshots, the repeated false reports. It will be expensive and messy, but it's the only way to potentially stop Karen and get some form of justice. The fear of hurting Sophie is understandable, but Karen is the one putting her daughter in this position by her own actions. It's not the narrator's responsibility to protect Karen from the consequences of her own behavior. Fight back.
The fact that Karen can charm the police with cookies is honestly infuriating. It shows how easily people can be swayed by superficial appearances and how difficult it is for someone without that social capital to be taken seriously, even with evidence. This town has a serious problem.
While Karen's behavior is extreme, the narrator isn't entirely blameless in the escalation. She could have handled the initial disputes differently, confronting Karen about blocking the driveway when she knows Karen feigns innocence. What did she expect? Sometimes you have to pick your battles and not give a toxic person more ammunition. It's unfortunate, but true.
Sophie's drawing of the tomato garden is the most poignant detail. It symbolizes the genuine connection and warmth she finds at the narrator's house, in stark contrast to her own home and mother. The narrator is providing Sophie with something she desperately needs, and the thought of jeopardizing that is truly agonizing. This is a test of whether empathy can survive in the face of relentless cruelty,